how much? I mean, so at the beginning of the war, a lot of people, including me, said that in response to the people who said we should really be worried about China and not Russia and blah 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 blah, I would make the point. I was not alone in this, saying, well, if you want to deter China from going after Taiwan, successfully beat Russia's attempt to take over Ukraine. I still believe that's true. I've heard smart pushbacks on it to one extent or another. But if the stalemate until, which is not really a stalemate, I understand, but the status quo until both sides get tired, and then there's some sort of crappy deal that the West acquiesces to out of inertia more than anything else. How much does that embolden Xi? Because right, if Xi figures, okay, so the West was really mad about Ukraine for a few years and then made peace with it because that was the path of least resistance. It seems to me that's a perfectly tolerable solution for or outcome for China vis-a-vis Taiwan.
Look, I mean, I do. You want it is right to avoid the simplistic, we're going to defend Taiwan, we're going to defend Taipei and Kiev thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, things are not simple, and I'm in the old Isaiah Berlin framework. I'm very much of a hedgehog, and I don't like. I'm very much of a fox, and I don't like hedgehoggy,
Right.
simplifications. All right, so no, it is more complicated than that. That having been said, our adversaries look for general patterns in our overall sort of political zeitgeist because we change presidents periodically, unlike them, right?
Right.
So if you want to read what America is going to do years hence, it's not enough to look at who's in the Oval Office or who's going to be next year. You have to look at how are Americans thinking about things. There's one very obvious conclusion to draw, which is that we play with wars as if they're toys and then we get tired of them and walk away. We did that with Iraq. That didn't work out so well. We're in the process of doing it with second Iraq with ISIS, where we've gotten tired of that and are talking about walking away now. We did it with Afghanistan and just decided to break the toys and throw them all away. If we do it with Ukraine as well, it'll be, exhibit 3 in that trend, and it will show potentially the degree of bipartisanship, of commitment to that trend. So then, yeah, a very straightforward and reasonable conclusion for Xi to draw would be, yes, if I invade Taiwan, the Americans will be pissed off and they'll take a variety of measures and it'll be very unpleasant for a while. But ultimately, they will get bored and they will decide that they don't like this anymore. And when the dust settles, I'll have Taiwan and things will go back kind of normal. That would be a perfectly reasonable conclusion to draw if we abandon this effort in Ukraine. So we really do need to keep that in mind. Now, there's another factor here that wasn't at play in Iraq and Afghanistan that's also very important. We have made it very clear that our behavior vis-a-vis Ukraine is heavily conditioned by Putin's periodic, more or less oblique threats to use nuclear weapons. I'm 100% sure that Xi Jinping and Khamenei and the boys around him are drawing conclusions about that.
Right.
And we really do want to think hard about what lessons we want to teach our enemies. Because if the lesson that we want to teach them is, if you have nuclear weapons, threaten to use them. You won't have to, but if you threaten to use them, the Americans will react to that in ways that will satisfy you, more or less. If you don't have nuclear weapons, you better get you some. That's not a lesson that we want to teach either. Now, again, neither of those in themselves would be reasons by themselves why I would advocate for this. And I think part of the problem is people who critique this and say, well, we can't defend Ukraine because they want to parse out parts of a complicated interrelated set of factors that make this important. You have to look at all of this stuff together. And the more that you look at it all together, the more that the answer to me is very, very clear about why this is a vital American national security interest. This is one piece of it.